Hello and welcome, guys, to another Improvement Season podcast. It is me, Pascal Flor, and on the other end, it is Steve Hall, for anyone who is still not aware of our names. I just always want to mention that, just in case.
It's funny, I do, because I intro the main podcast always as the same, like your host is always Steve Hall, but if you don't, I have it with, I think we've said it before with client check-ins, I always start, I can't off the top of my head tell you exactly how I start client check-ins. It's like it just rolls off the tongue when I get into a client check-in.
Same here. It's always the same phrase. And I never really planned for it, Steve. It just automatically, naturally evolved to be that phrase. And it's probably the same for you, right?
Yeah, and I have, some clients will get into that too, where they always intro the same way. But I think it's often their coaches, so they intro their check-in the way that they intro to their clients.
Yeah.
So it's funny, but it's funny how those things revolve. And okay, so we're talking off air. I was going to dive into a topic, and I thought people might find it interesting. Someone reached out to me and they said they found it interesting us talking about like marketing yourself as an online coach and social media and the importance of that and how to go about it. And
before we do that, though, Steve, can I ask you? I mean, it's quite an obvious question, a rhetorical question, because I can see what's going on. But are you wearing a sweater in the depth of the summertime?
So, yeah, it's not hot here.
It isn't?
No.
All right.
It's got quite cold here.
Oh, really? Because right now, so today is one of the hottest days so far during this year.
Really?
And that's why the discrepancy is just like insane.
Yeah, man, the weather is so odd in the UK right now. Like a week ago or something, it was like boiling hot, probably similar to how you are now. In the like last few podcasts, I've been wearing vests. Like I don't know if it makes much difference, but for the Revive Stronger podcast, I always wear the same top now. I just decided I'm going to do that. And I won't wear this hat. I wear the Revive Stronger hat. I try and keep it like branded. So I wear the vest or the t-shirt, and I've been wearing the wet vest because it's been hot. But yeah, it's cooled right down. It's raining. It's cloudy. It's like the weather. You wouldn't think it was summer. The joke is summer's over in the UK, but I'm sure we're going to have another like spurt of heat coming through. So
I would love
it's not
that,
just
though.
that I'm prep. Lean and cold.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, okay, is he already that lean that he now needs to wear sweaters while it's, I don't know, 30 degrees Celsius outside or something like this?
I've got shorts on as well, so that kind of changes things a little bit. But if I trained already today, I probably would be in a t-shirt because that just makes me hot. But I haven't trained yet, so yeah. Yeah. Where was I going? Oh, before that. Oh, yeah. So we're talking off air. You said you just recently spent a fair bit of money on new bits and bobs for kind of filming and mostly just filming and photography.
Yes.
And I thought, people are interested in and I said it's an investment into like the business essentially and yourself. Especially now with social media, it's all about cameras and audio quality, and everyone now, like before, it was easy to stand out. But now, like everyone's got like, I don't know, the microphones the Rode microphone, like on the t-shirt, and they're filming themselves in the gym, and they have the tripods and everything. So it's so commonplace now. So yeah, I thought it might be an opportunity to talk a bit about that.
Yes. So first and foremost, as a disclaimer, I don't know what it is, but I'm very much drawn to just purchasing technical equipment and technical gadgets. I don't know what it is, right? Just to be fair, it's not that I'm going out and spend kind of shit on the latest stuff all of the time, but I do like to. So for example, cameras. I had so many cameras already, like over the last couple of, 10 to 15 years. And I'm not even a professional. So it's not that I'm a professional videographer or photographer, where that makes sense to purchase lots of different camera bodies or anything I like, right? And here as well, I have lots of equipment at home, right? I just sold my the last Fuji camera body. So I had a Fuji X-T30 Mark II, which I sold so that I can exchange it for the latest Sony A7C Mark II, because it's a full format camera, and I wanted to actually have because this is the one that I'm recording with right now, is also a Sony body, and I wanted to have it the same way so that it's the same color profile, makes it much easier for then color grading in the post-processing situation. And then like lighting equipment, stands, so C stands and all that kind of shit. I have like different lights and different smaller light gadgets. It's something that I do like to purchase, so you don't have to actually get this. But at the same time, when it comes to especially online coaching, to draw it back to what it is that you wanted to originally talk about, how to market yourself, I think that if you really want to step it up a notch, you're absolutely correct, Steve, that many people are putting out some good content already. But for me personally, and I don't really think that it makes that much of a difference, right? But for me personally, I can still see that the audio lacks quality, that the camera, the lighting lacks quality, and all those kind of things could be improved. So you can still massively stand out in comparison to the crowd, because most people are unaware of how to use a camera properly, how to use audio equipment properly, how to use lighting properly, which, to be fair though, once again, I don't think that when it comes to TikTok and Instagram, you need to have those high production content, because it could even detach yourself from the audience, because it just is weird. If you record a story where it's just like about your typical day and you set it up in your studio, it just looks off, you know? So you could easily make the argument that it's even not necessary to go down that route. But at the same time, if you really want to stand out, take a look at productions such as from Jeff Nippert, right? They look pretty. I haven't watched any Jeff Nippert videos in a very long time, but I just know that years ago he set up his studio, like right in front of his window, and it was very high quality. But I mean, he's also a professional YouTuber, so it just makes sense that he needs to actually put it out this way.
It's funny I'm not. I don't know. It's like you said, I don't know how to use like these gadgets and equipment, and like I try looking into it, but it's there's a lot to it. It's not simple by any means, I would say.
Yes.
But I like having things like, I'm not like you. I don't want to keep up with things. I like having things set up and then I leave them. So like I've got my lights here, I've got my camera here. Like I just leave it, don't touch it. If it's good, stay. But I even considered recently, I now and then consider getting a Shure microphone, because that seems to be what everyone's got. And I'm just like, would it make that much difference? I think going from like your microphone from your headphones to this microphone, huge step up. But going from like this microphone to then a Shure, how much difference does it really make? And also, because I know you've got an ear for it. You mentioned this when I interview a few people, you're like, oh, they're audio shit. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even really notice at the time. But it doesn't make that much difference. If my microphone sounds amazing, I speak for 15% of the podcast.
Shout out to Jeff, because I know he's listening.
Yeah, Jeff could do with especially for the number of voiceovers he does and the podcasts that he goes on. Yeah, just getting a little like USB plug-in microphone would go a long way for Jeff.
Yeah, and I know that he doesn't really take it the wrong way. That's why I'm more than willing to actually then say it out loudly. Yeah, like, Jeff, fucking get grip and hold of your audio, mate.
The thing you mentioned though, and I think it's a great point too, is people also, because people have gone so far in that direction of quality, people also seek out, I don't know how to say this, like more raw footage. They want more, like, to feel more involved. And I think Jeff does a really good job of that, where it's just like a bit more raw, like you really feel like you get to know the person, and it's not so professional. And like you said, that can, when it looks like a professional like movie production, there's something off-putting about that. You don't feel as involved with the person. Whereas when it's just like, I don't know, a bit more raw, a bit more like low quality, I guess you could call it, you kind of feel a bit more involved with that person.
Yeah, and I think it really depends on then the type of content that you're putting out. It's kind of the same as audio sounds, right? In many productions, if you are watching some documentaries, for example, there are always sounds in the background when there's, for example, a swipe. It's not just like a swipe into the next frame. It's always filled with some kind of sound, like shoo, for example, or when there are kind of trees in the background due to the wind kind of moving, and you didn't really catch that on camera tape. You're put it underneath it to create some atmosphere. And if you're using the wrong music, that seems off as well, for example, right? And you need to use the proper music for the right context. And the same thing applies then to the quality production, because you don't need to create a movie, a cinematic look if you are vlogging, right? Sometimes it may be cool in certain sections if there's not really any kind of, I don't know, vocal part, when it's more like B-roll shots or so. But if you're now sitting here and you're doing your voiceover stuff, Steve, I don't really think that you need to be in a movie setting, for example. It doesn't really fit the purpose. And that's why if you're only creating things for Instagram and it's fitness related, I don't really think that it needs to be that high level production. If, on the other hand, you're creating content for videographers or for photographers, it needs to actually have a certain standard, a certain quality, in order then to deliver your credibility as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something to being on social media is obviously a big part of being an online coach, because that's where you market yourself. But also, when you're on that platform a lot, you just get a feel for how to generate quality content. Like, I don't know, I sometimes just see it with people where I'm like, man, if you just, even on like infographics or it's videos, I'm just like, if you just did that one small change, it just would help. I don't know, you mentioned music. Sometimes I see people, and I've done this before, but not to this bad, like this level of severity, where they do like a sit down video talking to the camera, and the background music they've selected off Instagram is basically almost covering their voice, so you can't hear them. It should literally just be like, just about hear it in the background. You almost don't notice it, but it is there. And it's just funny when you see that. Or as an example, if you're doing like, again, a sit down video where you're talking through a subject, I think having a microphone and like it being kind of quite professional looking makes sense. But you don't need that in like every other circumstance, like where you're in the gym. Having just your iPhone, I think is, I mean, like we've said before, cameras on iPhones or on the latest Androids are pretty high quality now. You don't need like a proper huge production. And I think you've done it before, where you brought like your DSLR on like a tripod into the gym. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't love doing it with my iPhone, but it feels like it's small enough where it's not hugely in the way. I don't mind it so much. But when you're having to bring, especially it's like you're worried about breaking it, or even like you don't want to leave it in your bag, and it just becomes a bit too much. And I don't think you need that.
Not just that, Steve. I am someone who always felt uncomfortable recording myself in the gym. I feel like a weirdo, right? Those kind of, I don't know. I would now just like put a term on those people, like the Gymshark stringer type of lifters, you know, where you see the nipples and all that kind of stuff, who are just more concerned about posing in front of the mirror instead of actually training, and then spending like 3 hours in the gym and just like being those type of people. I always felt uncomfortable putting myself in that spot or in that situation. And while I don't really, I'm not really worried about what people think on a day-to-day basis. If I put myself in that situation, I have a problem with people then perceiving me as such a person, because that's the type of person I don't respect. So I always had issues with then taking my DSLR camera into the gym, setting it up on a tripod, feeling entitled that this space is now my space and everyone needs to actually respect my private area instead of then going through it. Because it is a public gym, right? It's not your video studio or something like SN. What's the name again? His studio, where all of the photo productions are taking place in the UK.
I forgot, Bailey's.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, where he has his professional photo studio set up like a training facility.
Yeah.
And I always felt uncomfortable putting myself in that situation, and also others in that situation as well. And I think that the beauty is that nowadays the mobile devices such as the iPhone is capable of recording amazing photos and amazing videos if the lighting is still kind of appropriate and all that kind of stuff. And If you then have someone by your side, it's even better because you can make it a little bit more dynamic, because it doesn't really look good to have it on the floor, for example, and then pointing at you. But if it's really on eye height, walking around, it looks actually pretty good. Which brings me, though, to the other topic or other point, because I think that sometimes people focus on something and maybe even spending resources on something that doesn't really matter to their current situation or current point of their career. So, for example, I know of a couple of people who had a videographer with them in the gym, recording them professionally, the workouts, the typical look that you've seen with many, many UK bodybuilders, for example, you know?
Sure.
And they are spending money on a videographer, and then you take a look at the view count of those reels over on Instagram, and they have or receive like 200 or 300 views. I was like, is that really what drives your business forward? Because the view count tells me a different story. And the same goes for something like Biceps and Banter are talking about. Instead of working about a new branding design, a new website, that's not what's holding your business back. It's most of the time the work that you're doing with your clients, and also how you portray yourself over on social media. And then once you are building a bigger brand, a bigger business, then you can worry about those things. Unless, of course, it's just something that you are interested in and you have the spare time to use. But then you could always make the argument of like, hey, then use the spare time of building that brand even more so.
Yeah, I could easily think about that for a podcast. Like someone could buy all the gear for a podcast, but they don't have great guests on, or they don't ask great questions, they don't host it very well. I'm much more likely to listen to a podcast that has poorer quality audio or video, but the guests are amazing, the questions are really good. Like that's way more alluring to me. It's the same with like an online coach who, I don't know, they spend loads of money on the latest app that they're going to use with their clients and it looks all flashy, or they spend loads of time on these spreadsheets, but their actual quality of coaching isn't very good. They don't get great results with their clients. Like that's not going to really push you further. And so, yeah, I agree. And I think your point of, I wanted to make sure we talked about it, of being a bit uncomfortable about that like level of production in gyms. I think there's so many people listening that will feel the same way. And I do. And particularly because I think a lot of us, we're online coaches, but also love training. That's my time. Like whenever I was actually just saying this to another client, I think, and talking about obviously 2021, Gordon would record a vlog every couple of weeks with me. And whilst they were fine, like, and I like Gordon, I didn't really look forward to those training sessions because it was always just a bit of a pain in the ass, essentially. He did a great job of not being like in the way, and I kind of just go through my sessions, and it wasn't but it became work. Whereas training for me is not work; it's kind of play. It's something I enjoy, and just recording some sets in the gym, that doesn't take away from that. Sometimes it does. I don't want to record, like some people record every set and they post every workout. And I personally I don't do that because I don't enjoy having to set up the camera and record every set. I'll record a few because I also want to look back at it and stuff like this. But man, it's hard when you're taking away from the thing that you really love. And like, I want to have passion for my training, and also in a contest prep, I don't want my training to become more work than it already kind of is. And I made that kind of conscious decision that, hey, maybe it's not as good for business in that sense, like short term with the vlogs, and that could be great, but I also have to enjoy myself in the gym and doing this thing. And yeah, so I just thought that was a good point that you made. And then the other thing I wanted to say was, that's something I've noticed on social media as a whole, is the quality of actual content isn't as good as like the quality of the video production and the editing. Like I watched some videos and I'm just like, there was loads of flashes and bangs and like engaging elements from the video editing, but the quality of content that PT or whatever was talking through was just like garbage. I was just like, what the hell? Like people are investing more into the video editing and software versus their like education and ability to talk through content. And I just think that's backwards. You've got to have the kind of substance there before you, like you said, upgrade to higher levels. Otherwise, kind of, if you aren't already producing videos that people want to hear your thoughts and feelings, and like you're not already good at engaging people and your view counts are low, just making everything 100 times higher quality is just exemplifying something that is already like low quality in a sense.
100%. 100%. You said so many great takes, or had so many great takes here. Just to go back to the inconvenience of recording yourself, and also the when it's morphing with another, that it's the enjoyment and also then the work related thing that then takes away from the enjoyment. I had it with the vlogging when we did that back in the days, because I didn't really like it when you wanted to make it a little bit more dynamic, i.e. setting things up, hit the record button, leaving the room, coming into the room as if someone else was actually then filming you.
Yeah, I hate those.
I like it from a cinematic perspective, but I hated it doing it on my own. I think it would be something different if you had someone with you, you are great friends, and you're spending time with another and see this as a side thing that you're both doing together because you enjoy it. But doing it on your own, I find it to be such a hassle, especially when traveling. But also, it was needed to create it like this because it would just be too boring to point your camera while walking on yourself the entire time. So you needed to create that. And for me, it was just not something that I liked. And I think that you have to be the person for that type of stuff. Same goes with everything, right? And I think that for me personally, I'm also not the person who likes to be kind of in the limelight. I don't really want to be center stage. I don't really have the main character syndrome. I don't like this. This is not something that I do enjoy, and some people do. And of course, it's absolutely valid then if they are then putting themselves in that limelight, as long as they are not really disregarding all of the rules and all of the, environmental norms. Because you see it sometimes, and I don't know anyone like this, right? But sometimes you see it, of course, that influencers overstep the boundaries by a long shot, for example, right? Especially when it comes to cultural norms, that they are not really respecting those. Also, furthermore, when it comes to the quality, I think it's the same as training. So you are getting a lot out of your training for very little time that you're investing. So let's say if you're just a recreational lifter, you can easily go to the gym like 3 or 4 times per week and see amazing results. The more time you invest, it's not a linear progress or linear return anymore, right? You get less and less out of the time that you're putting forth. And to really step it up a notch, you would probably need to become a professional athlete to really just dedicate the time to it to get the most out of things. And I think that it's the same when it comes to kind of media productions as well. So for example, when we take podcasting, I'm sure, Steve, you could create something like Chris Williamson's podcast as well. But it would require a lot of money, a lot of capital, a lot of time. You would need to do it full time in order to make this happen. Now, you could do this, but once again, it's a lot of resources that you need to actually put to it in order to maybe see marginal increment in your returns, because it's not guaranteed that you're getting a lot out of it, right? And this is what I also mean when it comes to media creation. If it would take you like 2 or 3 days to create one piece of content, Steve, most of the time it wouldn't really be worth it. That's why I totally get it with you that you're saying like, okay, right now with the setup that I have, I sit down, put on the lights, hit the record button, and then I have it. Right? It's this in comparison to 3 days of work.
Yeah.
For probably the same return.
Yeah. That's what it's like with like reels. Like sometimes, and I'm sure you've had it because you have had some very high quality reels that clearly you put a lot of editing into and time into, and then they just don't do that well. And you're just like, wow, I put in all that effort. And so then I'll have a reel where I literally, it'll be 5 seconds long and I'll just put in like some sort of clickbaity, somewhat controversial for me at least, title in there with a caption explaining stuff. And it will just suddenly go like to 100,000 views and loads of comments and engagement. I'm like, wow. That's why like it's not all about like the quality and the substance in some sense, and it's more about understanding almost the social media platform you're on, how to engage people. It's a tough one. Also there, I fully agree with you, and it's unfortunate because I had
content already in the past where I thought like, man, this is banger. The information that I have, the way that I'm delivering it, amazing. And it didn't really get the engagement that I was hoping for. And then I'm posting just a before and after picture of myself, and it's getting the most amount of clicks. And it doesn't really satisfy me from a also content I wouldn't see myself as a content creator, but if it doesn't really satisfy me, what does it have to be like for very creative people who are putting a lot of time and effort into things, which is not really well received, and then they see TikTok dancers making like 1.5 million views or whatever, you know, where it's just like, what the fuck? Why the fuck? You know? And I can absolutely understand this. And that's not to say that I totally find it, that I do like that type of content and I'm just brushing it off and be like, yeah, then you just have to give it to the masses of what they want. I think that, of course, you can be niche. And I think, of course, there may be a time where you may be shining, because so many people often say, like, be authentic, be yourself, put yourself out there, and do what it is that you like, and people will come to you. And I disagree with that statement, simply because sometimes what it is that you like, your foot fetishes or whatever, you know, may not resonate with maybe 99% of the people. And the 1% may not ever see your kind of stuff. So unfortunately, if you really, really want to be super successful, then you have to play the algorithm most of the time. And whether you really want to do this is entirely up to you. For me, I decided to not do this and play this game because I can't do this from a moral and ethical perspective where I want to see myself as that person. And that's why I decided against going down that route, right? But if you are saying like, okay, I can swallow it, I can set it aside, I may not like it, but I'm willing to play that game as well because this allows me to then put out other content, that's totally fine as well.
Yeah, I think for me, I do a bit of a combination of that. I definitely pay attention to, I don't know if it's the algorithm, but I pay attention to what's working. So obviously for years now, having your opinion on like reaction videos, have been doing well for a long time. And I don't like a lot of reaction videos. I find them just to be like, you're basically just using someone else's work and putting your face in there and you're not really adding anything. Whereas I kind of found my way of doing reaction videos in a sense where I can kind of hopefully add some value within that. And it's not just a takedown video of someone and being obnoxious and rude or anything. And it's really just looking at the content. Or, for example, reels, just doing short reels, which lack substance, but then adding that substance in the caption. So I kind of found a kind of middle ground for me, but still putting out stuff that, and I think to just focus on kind of what's doing well on social media could be wrong for online coaches because you're before and afters with your clients and talking about coaching, that's never going to do well. Like the number of likes and engagement you get from a before and after from a client is going to be way less than everything else. But that's very likely the most important bit of content to drive clients to you, or talking about your coaching, or having a sit down talk like face video that you've put quite a bit of effort into that shows you and your personality. It might not do well on social media, but that might be the bit of content that's actually driven you clients. Because I see some people who have had viral pieces of content with like millions of views. And I'm like, what's that actually drive? Because then you look into the comments and it's all, I don't know, negative, or they're talking about something that's unrelated to the like fitness piece and it's related to their hair or how they look or whatever it is. So there is definitely, you can't just focus on going viral. Like you've mentioned this a few times actually, and I've seen it with the guys from Biceps and Banter, some of the people they work with. You look at the number of clients that those people have, and you look at then their profile and their social media following. It's not huge, but they've converted their following really well. So I think there's an art to being able to do that as well. So it's an interesting discussion, and yeah, social media is such a big part of our job, and you do have to view it a bit as that. And I think it's important to, one, realize that, hey, I've got to do some things maybe that make me feel like less than ideal. For example, for you, even being on that platform and posting is more than you'd like to be doing, but also not doing it so much that it stops you doing it. So really trying to focus on the algorithm and try and make things trending and doing stuff that's outside of your moral compass. You're not going to adhere that way. So I think you find that sweet spot, and that's where everyone has to head.
Yeah. Yeah, and it could very well be that you're then finding the way that you like to produce some content, and maybe it takes you a little bit longer. But if that's something that you do enjoy doing, then so be it. So, because I was just mentioning that I purchased a lot of equipment, but at the same time, I'm not bringing out a lot of content and all that kind of stuff, which kind of sounds a little bit hypocritical. But for me personally, it's just that I like to play around with stuff like this. It's not that I purchase it in hopes that I'm able to create better content or anything I like.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything you just so I have one piece of value for the listeners apart from what we've said? Anything you've purchased, Pascal, that you feel like allowed you to produce better content? Like it was just like a little investment, but went a long way.
No, it's the age-old cliche saying of invest in yourself. Right, because I am someone who's very curious by nature. Whenever there's something that I'm interested in, I am consuming a lot of that stuff. I want to know a lot about it because I want to understand it. I want to be able to go out there and put it in practice myself, and I will stay on it for as long as I can. So curiosity and then having the willingness to learn about this goes a long way. And if you don't, then most of the time you're probably not as committed to it, which is fine, right? You don't have to actually love everything that you're doing. You don't have to be kind of fire for everything that you're delving into. But what I've noticed is then I'm not really standing behind it, and I'm not really putting in the work and effort and actually doing something good and spending the time that is required in order to understand it and then put it out there. One piece of equipment, though, that I would recommend anyone to get is if you really want to have better content or better quality of content, it's not so much the camera, it's the sound. Sound makes a huge difference. Like, honestly, the quality of the camera can be shitty as hell. As long as the quality of the sound is appropriate, that is acceptable. The other way around, not so much. You can have the best camera equipment. If the audio quality is horrendous, I'm switching off, and a lot of other people will be switching off as well.
Yeah, I will say, especially for podcasts, I did say that the quality of the conversation and the guest is more important. But if the audio is shocking, in this day and age, no one's going to listen. And the audio could be down to the internet connection too, because I've had it where I've tried to listen to some podcasts which I think are going to be good and engaging, and I'm like, I can't, because the connection's so bad and the audio is so bad. My brain is saying switch off. So I totally agree with that. The one piece of equipment I will say that I recently purchased that I wish I'd purchased earlier was a tripod. So I have tripods, but they were like a camera tripod, and then it was like a gorilla tripod. But in the gym, the gorilla tripod, the bendy legs and stuff, it kind of seems like it would make sense, but actually in practice, it's just better to have a little iPhone dedicated tripod. And for me, like you said, just be able to bring up the level so it's at a good height versus using like a water bottle and leaning my phone on it. It's just been way better. So yeah, that's been something I just chuck in my gym bag now.
Proper absolutely correct, Steve. This is also one piece of equipment that many videographers recommend that you're not saving money on. So get a proper tripod if you really want to step up your level of recording things, because the versatility and durability of good tripods is completely different than getting a tripod from Amazon Basics for $20 or so. It is absolutely fine to get it for something like gym stuff, but if you really want to, and I'm talking about videographers, right? That's the one thing that many people say that are then doing this professionally, like get a proper tripod. And also, of course, then it's about kind of getting all of the basic equipment, but lighting, right? One light source is more than enough. Get a proper one light source that is soft, because in the background, you can always play with the light that you have available at home already, right? And then proper light source coming from the side with maybe a bigger softbox then get a proper audio, and then the camera, you can use your iPhone also, right? But those things like sound and also lighting create such a different type of content, such a different look already, and also the type of audio that it steps up your the quality and also the perceived quality by a long shot.
Yeah. And I think just to, I agree with everything you said. And the other thing you mentioned, like having that curiosity to learn and things, I think that's great. The other thing I'd add to that as like a non-specific thing you can buy is just experience and just trying, and don't be afraid to try and put time and effort into it. I don't know if my social media is amazing, but it's not bad. And I've grown a decent following. And it's just because if you look at the number of posts I've done, it's ridiculous. And if you look at the number of hours I'm on social media, it's quite a bit. And yeah, some of that's wasted. I'm no doubt about that. I'd be honest about it, but lots of it is trying to learn and absorb that and just be within it. And so that allows me to kind of stay on top of what seems to be doing well. So yeah.
Let's take a short break and then be back with a little bit more chat about this, in my opinion.
Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
So back at it. I think that everything that we've talked about is not just applicable to online coaches. I think that even offline coaches can benefit from that as well, because you have always your local environment. If you put yourself out there in a much more professional lighting, people will notice you and they will be more so drawn towards working with you over than other people. It is, Steve, London is, of course, a little bit of a different beast, right? But where I live, it's slightly outside of Berlin, as you may know. So 750 meters behind the Berlin border. And it feels like a small town, a small village. And of course, locals make have some ads on the streets and all that kind of shit. And those things look horrendous, you know? And so, for example, a real estate agent, for example, horrendous ads. If he would or were to use something like Canva, for example, mate, he would immediately draw in more potential clients. I swear to you that this would be possible because it just sticks with you. That is what marketing does, right? Marketing and advertising is planting some seeds in your head that the next time you think about getting a new, I don't know, microphone, for example, then you're thinking about that certain brand. Not because you are remembering that one ad most of the time, but it's primed. You've been primed in thinking about the brand and more so drawn towards, all right, I heard about the brand name. I know what they stand for. It's probably high quality, so I go with those. Instead of some kind of, I don't know, you go to Amazon, type in some microphones and then like 99% of the names you never heard of, you know?
Yeah, I think that, I guess I could sound hypocritical because I said the quality of the content matters more than the substance of the content matters more than like the quality that you're putting towards it. But I think there's a certain level of quality you have to meet in terms of a threshold. It could be the best looking ad or the best looking content, but if it sounds awful, you can barely see it, it's just not going to go anywhere. So you need to meet this like lower end threshold. And like you said, Canva is like, there's so many free tools and things that you can do, or cheap things like a little tripod that just level you up massively.
And believe me, most people out there are clueless about this. I know this because Katie is exactly like this. You know, She never heard about Canva, and she needed to create some kind of flyers for school. And I told her about this. Hey, why don't you create it with Canva? It looks amazing. And she received a lot of compliments and was praised by her boss because it looked amazing. And now she then recommended other people to Canva, and so many out of her team are now using Canva. And this is the effect that you can actually then create. Because so many people are clueless about this. They don't even know how to set up the mobile device, right? So this is something that you have to expect. And if then you want to set yourself apart and do some advertisement, especially also as an offline PT, maybe in your gym or maybe in your local environment, by maybe running some, I don't know if that's still a thing, something like Facebook ads or anything alike, there are many, many different ways probably of providing or advertisement in your local area. I think that you can really stand out, like really, really stand out without that much of an effort or without that much of a know-how on how to use, I don't know, Illustrator or Photoshop or so. You don't need this anymore nowadays.
Did you ever have business cards?
No.
I printed off so many. I think I might still have some, like tons of business cards. And man, really? I wish I'd Canva.
But it's like, what is it now? 14 years ago or something this? Yeah.
When I first became a PT, I got this logo done and I printed it on these like business cards. Yeah. And that was the thing. It was like, what do you print your business card on? Is it like cheap quality card, or do you go for like, this is from what's that film?
American Psycho.
Yeah. Where it's like the different quality business cards.
Just getting massively angry about the new card that his colleague is actually then showing and demonstrating.
It's so funny. But yeah, those were a waste in the end, but it was because that was one of the ways you'd advertise yourself. Yeah. So it's just funny thinking back. Any updates on your end? How are things going? You're cutting, right? How's it gone?
Yeah, it's going great. I had I think 3 or 4 days ago, there's a girl who's going to my gym as well. She's not really a lifter. She's just very, very kind. We, of course, because it's early in the morning, there are not many people around, and we got to know each other. And she then, at some point, while I was training, was actually sending me a message over on Instagram saying like, "Hey, Pascal, is everything all right with you?" Because apparently I was looking very tired, very grim as well at the same time. And she had a point, because on that day specifically, I was actually then starting to notice the cut for the very first time. I got up in the morning, and it was just like, I didn't really have the oomph and the energy. And but that was so far the only time that I had feeling like this. But it's going well. I mean, I'm right now down to 76 kilograms. So coming all the way from above 80.
Oh, damn. Quick.
Easy.
Do you know how much longer you're dieting for? Have you got like a deadline or no?
No deadline. So at the end of July, I will be away with my family in Denmark. We're going to Legoland. Legoland. Nice. And probably during that time frame, I will eat the way that I would like to. And also here next weekend, it's finally again a D-Day, so a date day for Katie and I for the first time in a very long time. And also on that day, we're just going to eat out, and I don't care what we eat, and I don't really look for then the macros and all that kind of stuff. It's just I eat mindfully, Yeah. And if I go above the calories for that day, totally fine. If I am staying below my maintenance target, totally fine. I don't really care, mate.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. You have no like hard deadlines, and I have this approach with many clients where it's just like, hey, if you have like a social event or something important, as long as you're mindful and you don't just go shit the bed and eat a ton of crap and end up sacrificing weeks worth of progress, which is hard to do. But if you just are mindful, you can just take it as, hey, you're a bit near maintenance, a bit below, a little bit above. It's not a problem.
Steve, how do you feel though? How much leeway do you allow and give people? Because I have the feeling that I can only allow for such a leeway for myself because I have such a vast amount of experience so far. And also my goals are more like more lax. I am taking things very seriously still in the gym. I even said to one of my athletes, I am very relaxed when it comes to my training. I just want to enjoy it. That doesn't mean, though, that I'm not training hard, and I would even go as far, and this is, of course, putting myself on a limb here, that I train and train still harder than the vast majority of my athletes, and also I take it more seriously than the vast majority of my athletes. And that's not meant in a condescending manner. That's just the person that I am. That I don't want to give out the impression that, oh, because I don't have any kind of major goals, that I'm going in there and I'm just kind of poo-pooing around. But also my experience pays off in terms of nutrition, only because I take it very much lax and flexible, or flexibly doesn't really mean that I'm not on it. And only because I say that I don't really care doesn't really mean that I'm not ticking off the boxes and all that kind of stuff. It's just the experience that allows me to be that flexible. So I'm curious, long story short now, how much leeway and how much flexibility do you allow, and does it vary between athletes?
It definitely varies. It varies, like you said, knowing the person, their skill set, almost their level of experience. How have they been on various situations like this before? Do I need to encourage them to be a bit more relaxed, or do I need to encourage them to actually pay a bit more attention? And then what are their goals, like short term, longer term? Because some people, I work with quite a few people who are very serious, who maybe even avoid sometimes eating out due to thinking that they need to stay on plan and that it's hard to track. And they're not even like competitive bodybuilders. They have no short-term aspirations like stepping on stage or a photo shoot. They're like, I need to like kind of encourage them, no, go enjoy the social occasion, set yourself like some parameters to make it work in. And every time they go do that, they get better and better at it and they get more comfortable with it. But I also do have clients who could be exactly the same. They're not competitive, they're not serious, but their goal is like fat loss. And I've had people who, they've been trying to lose fat for a long time. And, you know, they just, for whatever reason, they struggle with it. They struggle to adhere long term, and they do give themselves too much leeway. For those, it's a case of every time we go to eat out, let's try and introduce more and more structure and parameters because it just every time sets them back a little bit, sets them back a little bit. So yeah, it's like you said, it's very individual context dependent on the person, because for some people, if they're eating out every week and they do approach it like mindfully, for them is like all out eating for us in that sense. And that's just not going to do for their goals. And they will just like spin their wheels. It's that traditional, is it the warrior diet where they're like through the week they're on it, and then on the weekend they just cheat and binge, and it just undoes all that good progress through the week. It's like you're trying really hard in the week to then destroy all that on the weekend. And if you keep doing that for weeks and you look back and you're like, man, I'm really not proud of that, something's got to change.
Yeah. I was mentioning that girl that actually reached out to me then that other day, and we are often having conversations because she's very talkative, and I don't mean it in a condescending way. She's very nice, very kind. And today we were first having a conversation because she said, we were just chatting about the cutting phase, and I even said like, same as for your question, I don't know when I will end it. I don't really care, I said, right? And in the same instance, I though said that this is not how I would recommend anyone else to be cutting, or very, very few people. I would never really, or hardly ever say to anyone of like, just wing it. You don't have to set any kind of deadlines. You don't have to necessarily track the macros, the scale weight, all that kind of stuff, right? Because so many people, and I even brought up the analogy of a race car driver. A Formula One driver isn't just doing it since yesterday. He's been doing it for a very long time, practicing in those Formula One cars, getting to know those, the G-force, he's getting used to that, training for that, right? And it's not just happening overnight. It takes a very, very long time to be able to drive a race car like this. And I'm not saying that my body is a race car. I'm just more so referring to the length to be able to pull that skill off. However, if you've done your license like 10 years ago and all you did was driving around in a car and like publicly, I wouldn't be comfortable sitting down in a race car and trying to get through the lab at the same kind of speed. Never, never. That's why the vast majority of people aren't really race car drivers, and they've never really put themselves in a position like this. That's why I don't really think that many people should be putting this off. Now I'll get to the point what I wanted to make, because she said that it's quite impressive of what it is that I'm doing. She sees me regularly. She sees that I'm training hard. I have such an easy time of actually then being in shape, staying in shape, and all that kind of stuff. And it once again made me realize that what it is that we are doing and the way that we look, especially you, Steve, is so much out of the ordinary that we sometimes forget how, in quotation marks, special that is, because so many people are not in that spot. So many people are struggling with even motivating themselves going into the gym, staying on track when it comes to food, right? Having a good amount of awareness when it comes to food. And she said that I can be massively proud of that. And I even said that I'm not, because I always compare myself to people who do it even better than I have, or am doing it, or have it harder in life, for example. So for me, it's more like a norm. But often we are so detached from actually reality. And I think this is also the norm when it comes to, for example, I could see rich people getting into that position as well, where they are so detached from how the vast majority of people are living their day-to-day life, that because money doesn't really matter to them anymore, they have a completely different mentality when it comes to money, and a completely different perception of money. And I think that it's kind of the same when it comes to training and nutrition as well.
Yeah, it's your environment, right?
Yeah.
If you are like, are you a big fish in a small pond, or are you not in that sense? I know it was just, I don't know why this example comes up, and I really hope this doesn't come across the wrong way, but a while ago, and he was talking about, he was being quite I guess in some ways egoistic about the amount of money he was earning, about the amount of savings he has and the car he has. And as he was talking through it, I was like it wasn't impressing me, because I was like, it's not like you're making a crazy amount of money. You haven't got, he had like, I don't know, £5,000. No. What did he have? Like, I don't know, like 20 grand in the bank or something. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's good, but it's not like, I wasn't like 200 grand or 2 million in the bank, then I'd be like, oh, holy shit. Like, and his car and what have you. And I was just like, in his environment, that's impressive. In his friendship group, like, he is the big bollocks. But it's the same, like, because you mentioned finances. And so they're in like their world, they have millions in the bank, but their friends are billions or whatever it is. So it's like you always compare yourself upwards. So it's the same with us in our environment. Like when people, and I have to be careful, because sometimes people will give me props and then I'll be like, I'm nothing. Like, because I'm trying to be, I don't know, not trying to be, but I think of people like a Brian DaCosta, bring him up like all the time now, because I just realized how freaky jacked he is. So I'm like, I'm nothing compared to him. I'm absolutely nothing. I'm a decent amateur bodybuilder, but compared to the vast majority of the population, like, we are wildly like muscular, fit, like all of that. It's the same with intelligence. I often think, I don't think of myself as an intelligent person. I think I'm dead average. But Charlotte will often tell me, she's like, no, you're a smart person. Like, as the people I know, I consider you very intelligent. And I think of someone, I don't know, you see it, like the people I interview on the podcast, I'm like, man, all these people are so well spoken. They know their stuff inside out. And I think it's just all too easy to discount yourself, and you have to be careful to not make yourself so underconfident, because I know for me, for example, underconfidence has hurt me throughout my life in various ways, even just from like how I feel about myself. And so you need to give yourself some props now and then. So I think it's great that she gave you some props, because hopefully that you felt it and you're like, actually, yeah.
No.
You didn't.
No,
that's the worst.
I think that you've put it much in a much better kind of light than I did. So for example, with the millionaires, they have friends who are billionaires, and that's why they are looking up to them and compare themselves to them. Same goes then for you and Brian DaCosta. We always at least that's apparently the people or the type of person that we are, Steve. I don't know how it is for other people, but for me personally, and it's also something that I've said and talked about, maybe here on the podcast, but especially with Katie, there's nothing in life that I'm really proud of. And that is super sad, because I would love to be able to have something where I stand behind proudly and be like, mate, this is what I've created. This is who I am. And to be honest, if I reflect upon it, it is making me sad. But on the flip side, I can still acknowledge that I am living an amazing life. I have 2 amazing kids. I have a very, very smart, very caring and beautiful wife by my side. I own a house. I'm self-employed, and I'm making good money. I'm healthy, right? I'm not looking too shabby. So to be honest, if I really just count those things up, and this is not to, of course, to toot our own horn or my own horn, it's just trying to look at myself from an objective outside perspective. If I were to see someone else like this, I would say like, mate, you have it all. What are you complaining about, right? And I'm not complaining. It's just that it will probably never be enough, because you will always, with the type of people that we are, compare yourself to something that is better or who has it worse than you, right? For example, when it comes to the self-induced dietary hardship of a cutting phase. I know that some people are struggling massively, right? But for me personally, over the years, it has become easier and easier. And now I'm saying like, mate, I should never, ever have the audacity to complain about my situation, because I've decided to put this on myself. And there are millions of people out there who can't really decide on their own when their next meal is going to be in front of them, and who don't really have food available 24/7 if they want to. It's kind of like those experiments that rich people do of like living like a poor person. Mate, that's not the same. You experience it maybe slightly in the moment, but you will never really know what it's like from a psychological demanding perspective, knowing or not knowing where then the next meal is going, or when the next paycheck is due, how to then pay medical bills and all that kind of stuff, because you just do it for fun and entertainment. Those people can't really decide. And that's why, for me personally, when it comes to kind of my situation, I can't ever complain, but I can't also never be proud.
Yeah.
As weird as it sounds.
The word that comes to mind is perspective, right? For everything you mentioned, everything we've talked about, I think every now and then it's just good to take perspective, take stock of things, look at yourself, look at where you've come from, look at where you want to go. Because the people that listen to this podcast, they are like go-getters, I think. Like we want to do better, be better. But if we constantly look at where we're not, you never quite respect where you are. And I think it's so important to like be mindful of that. Again, I can vividly remember saying it to Charlotte when we came over for your wedding, and I just was in your world for a little bit. Kind of saw your house, saw your family, what you were up to, driving your car, and I was like, man, Pascal has such a great life. Like, it's so cool to see it. And I felt like really, I don't know if the word is jealous. I didn't feel jealous, but I was like, inspired. I was like, this is awesome. This is such a great life. Pascal's so happy. Like, this is, it was really cool to see that. And you might not feel that way every day, but hearing someone else say it, or you think, put myself 10 years ago, look at where I am now. Wow, that's really cool. And there might be some people listening where they're like, hey, if I did that, I wouldn't be happy with where I'm at. And then they're the exact people that need that, maybe a bit of a kick up the arse, right? If they can, like, let's try and improve this. Let's try and push on. So yeah, I don't know. It's all perspective.
And you're absolutely right in trying to be mindful about what it is that you have right now and appreciate it, because for to some extent it may also be luck involved, but so often it is also then the work and decisions that you have made along the way. And of course, there is luck in the decisions that you have made, that you made the right choices at the right time, because it could have gone quite differently as well. But acknowledge that, especially when it comes to, for example, you, Steve, and the way that you look right now people would go out and say like, mate, you have such great genetics. Mate, you look so big. I wish that I would look like you, right? But little do they know most of the time that you have worked for this for such a long time and very much dedicated a lot forward. And I think it made them be with certain famous people, certain creatives as well, that they have dedicated their entire lives to it and went through a lot of hardship in order to get there. But all people then see as like kind of the current status quo and
tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. And of course, from our perspective, it is so hard, at least for me, to be proud if I know that there's always someone who has more and is better, right? How can I be then proud of something that someone else has already accomplished? And at the same time, it's like I said, how can I complain if there are so many people who have it much, much worse than I have? It is kind of, I don't know if that's something that you would even term paradoxum, but it is
kind of a paradox,
sticky situation to be in, because I can acknowledge both aspects of like, I have no right to complain, I have it so great, and I shouldn't really envy other people or compare myself to others because I have it so great in my current situation. And yet it's kind of, I don't know, you're in a conflicting situation. At least that's how I feel.
Comparison is the thief of joy often, and you just have to look at your process and are you proud of what you've done as an individual, not necessarily the outcome, because you don't really have control over that so much. You have more control over the hard effort and work that you've put in to get where you are. Yeah. If you're proud of that, then, or if you have done a good job of that, you should be proud of that no matter where you're at in life, I think. So yeah, it's a philosophical one, I think.
I think it is. And once again, this is only our experience, only our observation and perception of things, right? If people were now to listen to, for example, what it is that we are thinking about, and you can't relate to that or resonate with that, totally fine, right? Don't go into the comment section and project it onto you and say like, I don't feel that way. How can you say something like this? It's the way that we perceive things.
Do comment. It's good for the algorithm.
You can absolutely comment, but I see it especially like on social media, on something like Instagram, quite a lot when someone is saying like, I've experienced that XYZ, or I feel that way, when someone else is then coming to the comment section and be like, but I don't feel it that way. How can you then? Right? Or I don't think that's the case. So how dare you that you think that's the case? And it's kind of also there, the main character syndrome. It's probably not about you then who's commenting. It's more about the person who then stated what they think. And that doesn't mean that it's always correct or factually correct. And that's probably also why reactionary videos work so well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, people love just to see opinions, don't they? And share their opinion.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we call it there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. As always, if you've listened this far, you better be subscribed. If you're listening every week and you're not subscribed, how dare you? You better get subscribed. And obviously leave us a nice comment, review, and thumbs up, all that good stuff. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Cheers, guys.
Losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality, and we know how to do it, and we will help you achieve this. The Minicut Movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut Movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.